Hi there, my name's John Stevens, pastor of Zion Lutheran Church in Oregon City, Oregon, and we're part of the ELCA, and welcome to Dollar Store Children's Sermons, where we take a look at the lectionary texts and we tie them to an item from the Dollar Tree. This is for the 6th Sunday of Easter, and we're looking at both the Gospel of John and 1 John. And I tell you, so I'm on my way here today, and I'm listening to Rob Bell. I'm listening to the Robcast, his podcast, and this week's episode is primarily, the majority of it is about how you might have an idea, or you're struggling with an idea, or if you've been doing something for a long time, and you get there and you're like, what is this? And I just laughed because I was thinking, and he talked about how there's times where he's recording his podcast and he'll get like 12 minutes in and have to shut it off because there just isn't anything there. And I'm laughing because I've had to shut this off a couple of times because I get to a certain point as I'm trying to get to the point of the children's sermon, and I'm like, what am I talking about? I just laugh because a couple of weeks ago, I was in the middle of the children's sermon, and I had something set up, and it didn't work, and it just fell flat on its face, and at that point, you stop, and you go, I want to talk about grace and love and forgiveness, because God loves us, especially when we fall on our face, and it took a whole different tangent, a whole different road. And so the reason I bring that up is because today is the theme, or the springboard, is all about resting in God's love. That sometimes, it's amazing how all of the things around us seem to tell us that unless we measure up, we won't be loved. And, we've heard it before, all the commercials, all the things that say, if you have the new, hey, you know what, if you get the new iPhone, we're going to give you a second one so you could give it to your friends. You don't have friends? Well, if you get 2 iPhones, then you will have a friend. It leads into the thing. Anyway, the gospel is all about God loving us no matter what. And if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that that's my go-to, is that God loves us, period. That's it. God loves us, and then everything we do is a springboard from that. God loves us. Today's gospel lesson and the first lesson really seems for me to be this idea that we are called to rest in that love. The command is to love one another just as God has loved us. In the first lesson, God's commands are not burdensome. This sense of being, it's almost like if you had a bunch of bubble wrap. And my dad used to tell my mom, when we would go out to play, my dad would like, you can't wrap them in bubble wrap. This gospel lesson has kind of a spiritual bubble wrap where you can wrap, we'd be wrapped up. So that's the first idea I'm going at, is this idea of that the gospel lesson wraps us in bubble wrap and of this love. And what a wonderful image. You can get a big thing of bubble wrap so that's one image. That's just kind of a tangent going in there about being protected and loved and embraced. And when there's something you really care about, when you're going to send it, so you have a box and you've got something in the box and you pack it up really nice. God's love and God's commands help protect us and keep us safe, and that's all out of love, and then we love one another out of love. There's that. The idea I think I'm really focusing on for this week, and this would be the item that I'm going to use, is a swimming noodle or a life jacket. That's the last of, if you have a life jacket, you could use that, but that's, anyway, swimming noodle, life jacket, or they've got those inflatable arm things that you can put in. And those are the ones that I normally see at the Dollar Tree. And this is about the time of year that they start coming in. It differs for each Dollar Tree, but some type of floating item. Because I want to focus on resting. I want to focus on that something that could be afraid, could be terrifying, could be scary, yet we have this protection, or this, yeah, protection might be the right word. I'm trying to figure out the right word, but we have this assurance that we're okay, that God loves us and God embraces us, and we can rest in that promise. I sink like a rock in water. I mean, I really do. I know how to swim barely. I've taken swimming lessons as a kid, but I sink like a rock. When I had an opportunity to go to Kauai a couple of years ago, and at Kauai, I got a float belt. And a float belt basically is like a swim noodle, but it straps, it snaps on around your waist, or you can bring it up to your chest. And it transformed, it changed the entire experience for me. It went from me being terrified to be in the ocean. I'm not scared of water, I'm scared of drowning, and scared of sinking down to the bottom. I had this float belt on, or at one point I had a noodle, and it changed everything because I knew I wasn't going to sink. I knew that I had, I was assured that I wasn't going to sink. And that experience told me that I was okay. And I see this as the same as God's love and God's command as we walk together with one another. God says, in me, you are okay. Everything else, the storms of life, things might press down on us. A lot of language I wouldn't use in a children's sermon, but you get the point. That we get scared, but God's love and God's assurance of God's love, and that we share that with one another, it reminds us that in the community of Christ, in God, we are okay. All right, there's tangents left and right, basic springboard for you using a floating item or bubble wrap, but a sense that we can abide, we can rest, we can be assured that God loves you no matter what, that God loves you and that we get to share that love with everyone we meet. All right, thanks for stopping by. I hope you have a fantastic week. It was sunshining last week. It's raining this week. I'm just basking in the glow of Christ, or something like that. All right, thanks for stopping by.